So just opportunities like that have happened because we were doing the mobile cart. But I do love having a sit down cafe, and I think that's where we're going to primarily focus going forward. I think initially I wasn't sure if we were just going to become like this, build out several motorcycles and do more events and more mobile carts and things like that. And I don't think we're going to expand that way at this point.
No, I can understand that because so obviously the permits are an issue, but also Mother Nature is an issue as well because, the weather could say one thing, but all of a sudden a pop-up rain happens or, like you guys are up there with the snow and different things that just really hinder what you can do as opposed to, like you said, your cafes where even if it's raining or snowing, people can come in and be warm and dry and it's perfectly fine. And they feel they feel more at home because of the fact that they can just get comfortable, talk for hours if they want, work from there, do whatever they need to from that coffee shop, as opposed to, the coffee to go thing is always going to be a factor for everybody. And so you can still do that with a brick and mortar, but the actual making it an attraction for your mobile pop-up is, I think, the better way of going about it as opposed to making that the regular thing, because if they make it a regular thing, they're like, oh yeah, that's the pop-up thing, but that doesn't mean they're going to go and grab coffee from you. They're just like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, as opposed to, oh, what is that? I haven't seen that, or I haven't seen that in months. Like, let me go get some coffee.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're here in Utah, especially. The weather can change very quickly, and we've had to adapt a lot. And our equipment works, quite well if it's above 60 degrees and if it's below 90 degrees. But there's times where it is below 60 and it is above 90. And when it's above 90, we do a whole lot of ice drinks, and keeping ice outside in 100 degrees in coolers is challenging and takes up a lot of space. And so there's a lot of challenges, and we just found like the amount of effort and work and people to pull off those events, it's hard to turn a profit. You can, but it's harder to turn a profit than it is if you have people coming to you and it's all set up and you've got all the right equipment and 2 group heads on the espresso machine rather than just one, because the espresso machine's small, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. Now, when did you guys turn your focus to also being a micro roaster?
Yeah, that happened a little quicker than we planned. We were using coffee from a roastery in Seattle that we love. They're called Anchorhead, and we loved those guys. And we were using them for the first year. And then a local roaster that I had talked to a few times, I'd seen him at events that we were at, and he was blown away by our espresso setup and things like that. And he wanted to work with us and things, and we talked a little bit about maybe having him do some roasting for us, but we had never done anything. And he approached me last May, so about a year and a half ago, and told me that he had an opportunity to go into a new business, and he wanted to do it, but he didn't feel like he could do that and keep his roasting business going. And he asked if I would be interested in buying the whole thing, and we worked out the numbers and made that happen last May. And so I first started just roasting for his subscribers and his customers and his commercial customers for a few months until we really got comfortable with the roasting process and kind of figuring out if we could roast coffee the way that we wanted our coffee to taste. And so we spent a few months kind of figuring that out, and I worked with a consultant out of California that was kind of the guru of roasting, and he kind of helped us dial in our processes and get it so that we were really happy with the coffee quality. And so, yeah, last summer, probably around July, August, we started selling Urban Sailor coffee roasted by us. And so we've been doing it for over a year now, and it's been a fun journey, that part.
Yeah, you guys have so many options on your website for people that, don't live in the Salt Lake City area. They can go on your website and buy coffee beans from y'all that y'all, obviously, like you said, roast there. So
Yep.
when it comes to producing the flavors, how much fun have y'all had with trying different things and what you can and can't do when it does come to coffee?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's kind of neat is I bought a company that was called Mindful Coffee Company, and the previous owner, Larry, had kind of come up with some really cool blends that we continue to sell. And we sell them in part because they're amazing, and also because there's a base of subscribers that were buying those exact blends for the last 5 years here in Salt Lake and around the country a little bit. And so if the name of the blend sounds like it's tied to mindfulness, it's probably one of those blends. I've consolidated under the Urban Sailor Coffee name. And so we've come up with some blends ourselves over the last year that are just stuff that we've come up with. So our Yord Bear blend and our Chocolatl blend and our Sabroso blend, we've got a few blends that we've invented ourselves, and it's taken, in some cases months, in other cases just a few weeks, where we've experimented with pre-blending before we roast or blending after we've finished roasting each individual origin, and then mixing them in different ratios to see if, having a higher concentration of one origin makes the flavor better than having a lower concentration, and having, 2 origins or 3 origins or even 4 origins in some blends. And so it's a fun part of our job, because sometimes I'm bringing home, little sample bags of multiple different blends that we've tried. And then over the course of, a few weeks, I'll go through them and try them each until I find one that's like, oh, that one's really good. And then we decide usually I don't just rely on my own palate. I get a few other people to try it. Some of my baristas, some of my close friends that are coffee nerds. And I'll be like, okay, what do you think of this one? And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so we'll give it a name and introduce it into the mix.
Very nice. What is your most popular selling blend?
Our Yord Bear blend, which starts with a J, if you're looking for it on the site, it's the Scandinavian or Nordic word for berry, and it has Ethiopia and Brazil. And the Ethiopia that we use is very kind of blueberry, has a real berry flavor to it. It just works really well on espresso. It's not like a traditional espresso, but that's what we use. You can definitely make drip coffee, pour overs, French press. It works for everything. But Yord Bear is our house espresso blend, and it's become kind of our signature. And so we have several people that come in and just buy a bag of that every week or order it off our site. I think that's our most popular blend. Chocolatl, which starts with an X, and it's kind of like a Aztec word or something. My son helps me name these things. The same one that bumps into Post Malone, by the way. That one has 2 different origins, like a Sumatra and a Guatemala, that both have chocolate in their tasting notes, and it has become our house cold brew. People just love it on nitro, and we also use it as our drip coffee a lot of the time. I would say more than half the time it's our house drip coffee as well. And that one seems to appeal to a very wide variety of people. It's medium, kind of a medium roast, and so if you like, if you typically drink dark roast, you can drink it because it's not too much lighter. If you typically drink a light roast, you can drink it because it's not too much darker. So it's kind of like a people pleaser down the middle. And then I would say our third most popular is actually our darkest roast, and it's one that I inherited from the previous coffee roaster, and it's called Void, and it's very dark. It's not my typical go-to coffee for the way I like to drink coffee, but people dig it. The people that like dark roasted coffee think it's amazing. And so it was a blend that Larry, the previous owner of mine, of Mindful Coffee came up with, and I've continued to make because we sell a lot of it. And so that's another one that I would recommend if people like a dark roast.
There you go. What is your personal favorite?
Yord Bear is my personal favorite.
Okay.
And then there's another one called Sabroso, which is similar to Yord Bear, but he uses a Colombian that I also like a lot. And so I would say those two are my personal favorites.
Very nice. Now, you mentioned a couple times already about your sons working with you, and from what I heard, you work with all four of your kids.
Right.
Or all four of your sons. How rewarding has that been, and also how, I guess the other way as well, because you're a parent and you are, you love them obviously and you want them to do the best, but you're also a boss and you're running a business, so you also have to somewhat treat them like employees as well. How has that balance been when it comes to working with your family and obviously working with your kids as well?
Yeah. No, I would say it's mostly been amazing. There have been a few challenges, and for the reasons that you mentioned, which are right on. Like, if your son is late for work, you still have to say something about it, and then be careful that it's not like you're not being extra hard on them when you may have another employee that's late, and you kind of just say like, oh, just try harder, So you got to kind of be fair about it, but at the same time, you're like, really? No, and they're amazing, and they've all worked really hard. They've all kind of found their niche as well. Like my oldest son has become our head roaster. Like he's been there roasting with me every week for the last year and a half, and he's become really good at it. And so he loves that. He's also going to college, so he's mostly roasting on the weekends and then going to college during the week and helps out here and there with the shop, mostly when we do events. And then my second oldest son is actually a full partner in the business. He's the one that had been a barista, was also a bartender, had the most kind of food service experience. He'd started working in restaurants here in Salt Lake when he was 16 and kind of loves culinary arts and things like that. So he's become kind of like the operational head of the shop, the two cafes and stuff. He sets the schedules, he does the training of the baristas and all that kind of stuff. So he's really involved and, very full time. Like he's working, probably 60 hours a week. My two youngest sons are also working as baristas, and they've become really good at it. And they're both, the one's in his sophomore year of college at the University of Utah, and then my youngest is kind of taking a gap year because he just graduated from high school last June. And so he's taking a year off and just kind of working at the coffee shop. So all of them are involved, and they're all key members of the team. I will also say we've hired about 9 additional employees. And so, some of those people have been with us for a year and a half or even 2 years now. And so they've become like, de facto family members as well. And they've been great. So we've got a really nice team of people, 4 of which are my own kids, and then some additional people that are not my kids, but, we treat them like family.
Yeah. Are there times that you have to, or someone else in the family has to be like, okay, you're not at work, you don't need to talk about work anymore?
Yeah, that probably happens. I'm probably guilty of that. I would say when my second oldest son and his name is Archer, by the way, and he's a partner in the business. If you see our Instagram or our website, he's all over the place in it because he's there all the time, and he's become kind of one of the main faces of the business for sure. But yeah, I would say when he and I get together, even if it's after hours, there's probably too much talk about business.
Yeah, I always hear that when it comes to either couples that are in business together or family members. Like at certain points, like somebody's got to be like, okay, we're not at work. We don't need to be.
Yeah.
We're at a baseball game or we're at a barbecue. Like we don't need to be talking about business anymore.
Yeah, I will say, like, he did move back out with, he's living with his girlfriend, and has been for about the last, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. And I think that's been good in a way because just like